Just got my away luggage carry-on about a month and a half ago. I've been using it. Check it out. $20 off if you go there now. awaytravel.com/Colin. Colin, promo code COLIN. Stuff is amazing. It's amazing. Well, we are at that time right now. I love late July, early August camps, NFL reporters bouncing around to camps. Tom Pellis covered the league for over 15 years, joining us via the Coward Global Satellite Network. Eagles, Seahawks, Colts, Viking camps. So let's start with of those teams. I think the Eagles are the best roster. Offensive line, defensive line. I like their GM. I like their coach. I mean, what was Eagles camp like? I know it's early, Tom. What was your takeaway on Philly?
The first thing that you notice when you go in Eagles camp right now is that Carson Wentz looks really lean. And you first think, all right, maybe that's just because he's not wearing the knee brace anymore. Naturally, he's going to be moving around a little bit better. But everybody I've talked to there through the course of the offseason has said the bounce is back in his step. You remember a year ago, he was still coming back from the knee injury. He had spotty participation through the offseason, missed a good chunk of training camp. Well, now the guy is healthy. The back issues are behind him. And he said he changed up his diet this offseason. He dropped a couple pounds. He has leaned out a little bit. He looks really good. And then you look at the weapons that Howie Roseman has put around him. Think about this. Howie Roseman gave up 2 sixth-round draft picks, got Deshaun Jackson and Jordan Howard on a team that already had Alshon Jeffrey, already had Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz. They've got a ton of pieces around Carson Wentz, who, if he stays healthy like he was at the tail end of the 2017 season, Colin, we know this guy could be an MVP caliber player.
Yeah, I have them getting to the NFC Championship. You're from Minnesota. Let's talk Vikings. I think they'll have a bounce-back year. I think Kirk Cousins, year 2 in the offense, will be better. I still love their roster. I think Mike Zimmer's a understated coach. I think he's all my NFL guys, all my scouts, all my executives, my sources, they love Mike Zimmer. They think he's an exceptional coach. I think the Vikings bounce back and have a playoff-level year. What say you?
I spent some time with Mike Zimmer at his ranch down in Kentucky a couple of weeks ago, and he is still the same guy he's always been. He's 63 years old now, says that he knows he can coach into his 70s if he wants to. The thing that he keeps talking about is they need to do more to help Kirk Cousins. You pay the guy $84 million, I get it. Everybody wants to think that he's going to put the team on his back, but go back to a year ago. They had some issues along the offensive line, big issues. Dalvin Cook, the starting running back, who might be the best player the Vikings have on offense, he was hurt. All of a sudden, they were in a shotgun type of passing offense. They were throwing the ball 40-plus times per game. It worked the first half of the season. Cousins, that offense performed pretty well, but it caught up to them down the stretch. So what did they do in the course of this offseason? They overhaul the scheme. They bring in Gary Kubiak to work with Kevin Stefanski, who's a bright young play caller. They're going to run kind of that Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan style of offense. Mike Shanahan, of course, the guy who drafted Kirk Cousins. Zimmer told me Cousins is a really good on-the-move quarterback, so expect him to do a lot of play action, a lot of bootlegs. They've got Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Dalvin Cook is healthy now. They invested some resources into that offensive line. Year after year, Mike Zimmer's defense is going to be top 5 in terms of points allowed. They've just got to do enough offensively, and they're confident that these changes are really going to play to Kirk Cousins' strengths.
Well, Philadelphia and Minnesota, I could certainly make an argument, 2 best rosters in the NFC. I do like Wentz more than Kirk, so I would take Philadelphia there. Let's move to the Colts camp, where, and I said this before, many people, athletes or not, have had a physical, some duress in their life, and they're never quite the same. I don't think Andrew Luck is at 100%. I did not last year. I thought his arm looked tired late. Right now, he's got a calf strain. I think this team, after this draft and free agency period, I do believe, Tom, they're capable, if not favored, for a Super Bowl. I think they're capable of it. Do you?
As I've been making these travels around to other camps, people keep asking me, how do the Colts look? They look good, don't they? Chris Ballard and his staff there have done such a phenomenal job of improving the depth on the roster, upgrading positions like cornerback, where they had nobody when he got there. They've gotten a lot better there. You go out and get a Justin Houston in the third wave of free agency, a veteran pass rusher, put him there with Darius Leonard. A lot of it's going to come down to what can Andrew Luck do. In terms of his health right now, there's been a lot of focus about the calf strain that was lingering from back in the spring. He didn't practice today. Here's what I'm told. Luck is really, really in tune with how he is physically because everything that he went through with the shoulder. So he just wants to be really, really cautious, get this thing settled down because it does continue to nag at him. But I was told he was even doing some throwing on the side today, just wasn't doing it in practice. When I talked to Luck, he told me, this does not weigh on me like the shoulder. He thinks he's going to be fine, just wants to make sure that he's going through the proper steps. No, they didn't spend big in free agency. They didn't make a push for Le'Veon Bell. They had no intention of doing that, but they still have T.Y. Hilton. They like the acquisition that they made in Devin Funchess coming over. Frank Reich told me he's a big man with little man footwork. They think in man-to-man coverage on those third downs, he's going to be a weapon for them. And their backs, don't overlook Marlon Mack. Didn't have an offseason a year ago because of some injuries. They think that with that full offseason, he's gaining confidence. He could be pretty good too.
And let's go to finally the Seahawks, another camp you went to. Now, whereas the Packers knew Aaron's contract would be an issue about 2 years ago, and where the Chiefs today know they're going to have to pay Patrick Mahomes in a couple of years, Russell Wilson, I think, caught John Snyder and maybe Pete off guard a little, wanting a new contract quickly, and they had to, in the draft, they'd made 4 or 5 picks into 11. It feels like to me they're a young team that will grow during the season. They got a lot of new parts here. And by the way, Pete's a very good teacher. Maybe he likes young rosters. What was your vibe when you went to Kirkland and watched the Seahawks?
No, you're exactly right, Colin. Pete Carroll's entire program is built on competition. You look at their track record through the years, they are not afraid to put rookies, young players on the field from week one, even if they're not quite ready, because they feel like those game reps, in addition to the practice reps, really make a difference, and those guys will get better and better over the course of the season. I mean, I'm taken aback every time I go through there because they had so many big personalities. They had so many superstars when they were winning the Super Bowl. Now the guys who are left, it's Bobby Wagner, it's Russell Wilson, it's KJ Wright, and then it's a lot of guys you're having to look down at the roster and say, okay, I think I know who that is. Is this going to be the next for them? He was a 10.5 sack guy a year ago. Where's the pass rush going to come from after they traded away Frank Clark? That's probably the biggest question facing this team, but they have offensive line continuity. They were effective running the football in volume last year. They think that their running backs are really underrated with Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, who has undeniable talent, their top draft pick a year ago. He's learning to become a pro. We'll see what DK Metcalf can do in the early going because the loss of Doug Baldwin's a big deal with Metcalf. What every scout I talked to through the process talked about was the things that he can't do. This guy can only run 2 different routes. He's a straight line speed guy. Well, the Seahawks coaches, when they reviewed him, they came up with a really specific plan. They're a vertical shot passing team going in. That's the style of offense they want to play. And we all know DK Metcalf, he can do one thing. It's run a vertical.
Tom Pelissero joining us. Previously USA Today, now NFL Network, NFL.com. The Cowboys, Jerry Jones yesterday, Joy and I were laughing about this. Jerry put on the cowboy hat. They found a perfect shaded area. It's a well-done one-on-one interview. It was like he's not trying to look like he prepared for the interview, but it's very well done. The lighting's perfect, and I believe he wanted to make a strong address yesterday saying, running backs don't get to the Super Bowl. This was Jerry with a little bit of his owner's address. Zeke was hearing it, even though he tried to act like, this is just an off-the-cuff interview. I think Jerry took a stand yesterday in this interview saying basically, Zeke, we're not paying you 2 years out, and if we do, it's not the number you're going to like. That was my takeaway. That's how it landed for me, Tom. You heard it, I'm sure. How did it land for you?
That was my first reaction, was it's a very clear message from Jerry Jones. My second reaction was to think back to 1993 when Emmitt Smith, the leading rusher in the league, held out into the season. They started 0-2, and all of a sudden the Cowboys found a way to get that deal done. They have a track record here of wanting to pay the running back position. They've not been scared about that. Jerry's talked openly about how excited he is that they feel like they've got their new triplets with Dak Prescott, with Amari Cooper, who they traded a first-round pick for a year ago, and then with Ezekiel Elliott. He has not had injury issues like a DeMarco Murray, which may have impacted the Cowboys' decision not to re-sign Murray for the long term. Zeke is still only 24 years old. There have been some off-field questions, but the Cowboys have been steadfast in their support of Ezekiel Elliott through all that, sending Cowboys attorneys into his appeals hearings, speaking openly that they have Zeke's back, even when he was going through some difficult things, some of them self-inflicted. And Zeke himself has said He needs to be conscientious about the positions he's putting himself in, continue to work to be a better pro, a better person. The logical outcome to all of this is that Ezekiel Elliott becomes the highest paid running back in the NFL. It is with the Dallas Cowboys that this thing does get done before the season. What we know as of now, though, Zeke is in Cabo, Mexico. His agents are down there as well. Talks are active. This is certainly a guy who the Cowboys would still like to get into camp, even if the only real reaction when he's not there is to try to talk tough.
All right, Tom Pelissero, great stuff. NFL Network, NFL.com. Love to have you on again, Tom. Appreciate your work. Nice job. Thank you.
Anytime, Colin.
You bet. All sorts of stuff. He'd been to the Vikings camp, the Eagles camp. He said Carson Wentz looked thin. You know, the NFC is just so hard to predict. Again, 2 years ago, we loved the Vikings. Last year, Kirk Cousins let us down. Minnesota probably has the second best roster. I mean, the three best rosters to me in the NFC are Philadelphia, Rams, Vikings. Like, don't sell your Minnesota stock. That division is fascinating. Aaron Rodgers is back with a really young team. Chicago's defense is frightening. Minnesota's roster is amazing. And your fourth best team, Detroit, has Matt Stafford, who'll pick you off if you have to go to Michigan and play him, and he gets hot. So, interesting division. Joy with the news.
No.